breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Oxygenate yourself. Breathe in. Breathe out. Through the nose. God breathed into Adam. He breathed the breath of life. Paul said the first Adam was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a life-giving spirit. We are moving from just being a receiver and being a giver. The breath is all about receiving and giving. To everything there is a season. Easterners call it the yin and the yang, but it's all the same. It's breath, it's light and darkness, it's all things working together for good. It's not the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's not an either or. It's a both and. The tree of life embraces all of it. Flowing through your physical body. Be aware of it. Be aware of the peace beginning at the top of your head. The same way that David talked about the anointing oil flowing down on Aaron's beard and down to the skirts of his garment. Think of the peace of God flowing over you that way. The peace of God is on top of you. It's around you. It's in you. It's on you. It's under you. It's in front of you, it's behind you. The peace of God is in your internal organs, in your lungs, in your heart, your liver. The peace of God is in your bones, it's in your muscles, it's in every system of your body, your endocrine system, your respiratory system, your vascular system. The peace of God is flowing through your veins, it's in your blood, it's in the cells of your body. The light of God, the energy of God, the creative word of God. The let there be light is flowing through your body. Your body is hardwired for health. So as you align yourself with peace, move away from dis-ease. Peace begins to manifest as healing and health in the physical body. Peace of God is in your mind, it's in your memories. Peace of God is in your personality. Peace of God is in your dreams. Peace of God makes these words come alive to you. The Lord is my shepherd. Shall not want. Makes me lie down in green pastures. Leads me beside the still waters. Restores my soul. Leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. All of these words take on a new meaning. You see them for the paradigm of peace. Take your consciousness of peace to the next level into oneness and unity. The word universe literally means one song, one verse. Unisong, universe, unimusic, one music. Breaking yourself one with all living things. One with the people in this room. some kind of spiritual warfare. You just bring yourself into harmony. Stay consistent in your breathing. Dealt with pain or sickness in a particular area of your body, intentionally welcome the light of God into that right now, into that area. Become conscious of your cells being recreated, being healed. Paul called it the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. It's the Zoe of God. It's the life of God. It's the eternalness of God. Bring your body into balance. In the meditation, once your thoughts settle down and you're no longer thinking anything, that's what the desired effect is. You want to get to a place where you're not even thinking. You're just being. Become aware of your existence beyond this natural body. The same voice that told Moses, I am, or introduced himself or itself as I am, that same voice speaks through every cell of your body, through every cell of your being. It speaks to your past, it speaks to your present, it speaks to your future, it speaks to your spirit, your soul, your body. The I amness of the eternal one is bringing your life into the now. Many times healing comes just by bringing your cells out of the past, opting out of cell memory of negative things, bringing your consciousness into the now, where cells are being renewed constantly. Your body is recreating itself. Let your consciousness be beyond your gender, beyond your age, beyond the events of your life. You are more than just your history. You are more than just the effects of the chain of events that have happened. You are eternal. that you seek, even through preaching or scriptures or whatever, it's just in your silence. Silence will speak to you. Silence will speak to your belly, not to your mind necessarily. Silence will speak to the core of you. Silence speaks to your spirit. David said, I will meditate with my own heart upon my bed. Not in the law of the Lord, but in my own heart, with my own heart. Meditate with yourself. Meditate with your eternal knowledge. Listen to your eternal spirit. Listen to the you that agreed to come here in the first place. The you that entered this realm eyes wide open. The you that created what became your life. Don't be afraid to listen to that part of you. That part of you isn't worried about anything. That part of you is not stressed. That part of you is not anxious. understand, is there one word that's really strong in your spirit during this meditation? I'm getting the word joy. I'm just feeling the word. That wasn't what I was going for, but that's the word that is kind of bubbling up inside of me. Somebody else, what word is strong in your spirit during this meditation? Peace. Healing. Somebody else? What word? Change. Interesting. What word are you hearing in your spirit?
Healing.
Healing. Absolutely. There's a lot of healing potential in this meditation today. Somebody else, what word are you hearing? Only do this if you feel if Spirit tells you to do it. I lift, put my hand on somebody while doing meditation. I want to make an invitation. If you feel so inclined to do that right now with someone, you don't have to be healing on it. So it just be like on their shoulder, or take them by the hand or something. But go, if you feel so inclined, go share that energy with somebody. Or it's not even necessarily making an impartation. It's saying, I want to connect with you during this meditation. While the music's still going, you don't have to make a big show of it, but if you feel so inclined to do it, go do that. It might be the person next to you, but just make a connection with someone. Don't overthink it. Do it before you talk yourself out of it. Just go make a connection with someone. While the music continues to play. Those of you that are streaming, and it seems like something televangelists used to do. I feel impressed to do it. Just put your hand on the screen. There is such a thing as distance healing. So your computer right there, put your hand where my hand is. Send this energy to you, healing to you, peace to you, strength to you. Put your hand right where my hand is. There's no distance in spirit. There's no distance in consciousness. Receive that connection. Listen to this on podcast. Put your hand on the phone or whatever it is, whatever device even if you can't see me. Stretching my hand, palm facing, so just put your hand where you think it might be, even if you're just listening to this. This may just be because I've just been talking about breath, but I'm feeling respiratory healing really strongly. It may just be because I have lungs in my mind because we were breathing, but I'm feeling that right now. Healing. It's bronchitis, pneumonia, anything that has to do with your breath, shortness of breath. Speak healing into your lungs. Speak to the oxygen in your body. That sounds crazy good. Jesus spat on dirt and made mud and put it in somebody's eye, and they were healed. I can blow into a microphone and believe that it will have an effect in your physical body. Thanks, Charles. You can take music. You know, it's interesting. I don't think I've done that since we've had Metron, and or there at the end, it was a very similar sensation to what I used to do. Healing lines, and I could feel, I guess you call it virtue, you feel it coming out of me. I felt something flow out there. So if you got a connection with that, message me and let me know. Good meditation. Three things I want to share with you quickly, and then we're going to do the announcements at the end. First of all, did you get anything out of that meditation? Good. And this is, like I said, I'm just speaking in stream of consciousness this month. First thought that's on my mind I want to share with you is, you remember when we talked about in quantum physics the observer effect, and that the quantum field is full of infinite potential, and it's how you observe something. They use the word collapse, like out of the infinite potential, it collapses into a reality. And it's very similar to even the first book I wrote years ago was Activating the Power of Life and Death, and it was inspired by a story that those of you all that knew me way back used to hear this story a lot. When Jonah was 5, I had my family in New York, and we were getting on the subway, and it was my fault. I thought wherever we were going on the subway, I was reading the legend, not the legend, but you know where the tracks are. And so he was ready to get on the train, and I said, you know what, we're on the wrong platform, we need to be on the other side. So while we're looking at that, the train comes, takes off, we turn around and look, and we're like, where's Jonah? Well, he got on the train. And if you've ever been on the subway, it's much more elaborate than Marty is here. It's like spaghetti under New York. So there's no way to even know, where do I even start looking for him? And what do I do? I mean, it was probably the scaredest I've ever been in my life. And immediately people started speaking to me saying, you're probably not going to find him, and you need to call the police, and children disappear. I actually, this is when I knew I was still Pentecostal. I just started speaking in my prayer language out loud. Like people were talking to me, and I wouldn't even listen to it. So, that's when Debbie and I were together, and I told her, I said, you go up, call the cops. I'm going to get on the train, and I don't know where I'm going, but I've got to find him. So I got on the train, and I'm like, please don't let this thing stop, because sometimes they'll be held up for a while and whatever. So train is packed. It's like sardines in there. And when we got to the next stop, I just jumped off. I wasn't even thinking. I just jumped off, and I ran to the top of the platform. And he was standing there. He was standing there holding this woman's hand. And I said, did you find my son? I burst into tears. And she said, well, I saw this little boy standing on the train. I thought he shouldn't be there by himself. And so I got him off the train, which that in itself was a little scary that, he would go with a stranger. So I knelt down to hug him, and I was crying. And when I stood up, she was gone. And now, when we retell that story, we say it's an angel, whatever. But as time went on,
it really started messing with my head, because I thought, man, what do people do that don't know where? It would nearly be better to have a child die than for you not to know where they were and not know, what's happening right now. I really had to process through it. But the point, a teaching came out of that about we determine how a thing is going to play out. And even when I told you the thing recently about getting my stuff back off the bottom of I call it a river, it's called Deep Creek, but it's a little river. I was talking about how I kept the attitude in a certain zone, and I said, just think hypothetically if this scuba diver is picking up on my energy that I'm sending out, and he interprets it as a thought, I think I'm gonna go scuba diving today. You don't just jump in the river, you gotta suit up, and there's a lot to it. What if, as he's moving toward it, suddenly I go, I'm not really gonna find this stuff, and get an attitude, and he says, maybe I will. You know what I mean? It's like, is that what happens? We're sending out vibrations, and then we change it. And I used to teach this years ago out of Galatians 6:9, we'll reap in due season if we faint not. And I used to do an analogy about how, when we get to heaven, we'll see the loading docks full of return to sender, like the angel was about to bring your manifestation, and then you fainted and just freaked out about it, and the angel said, well, I guess we'll send, take it back. So quantum physics came along and confirmed so many things that I used to teach over the years. I'm not a scientist, but I understood the concepts. So I've been thinking a lot about how everything that happens to us, it's how we observe it that determines how it's going to collapse into our reality. If there's somebody that's in your life that you're connected with, it's a no-brainer if they ask you to do something. Last week, it was kind of just this odd week that I had with all these people that weren't in my life anymore asking me to do stuff. I don't remember a week where I had more. I had to do 3 trips to Conyers and Covington to fulfill certain tasks. I had to do, kind of built a little stronghold of people that used to go to the church, many of whom I don't remember. They still, they've never been to Metron, will never come here, but when they have a pastoral need, they call on me, and it's kind of an aggravation. I've done lots of free funerals this year, and all the people that don't come to my church, and I guess a funeral takes all day long, and I guess they don't do honorariums anymore. Okay, they don't even say thank you, whatever. And so I started to get kind of an attitude, like people that used to go here asking me to do videos for their web pages and stuff. I'm like, what is going on? Like, if it's one of y'all, I'm like, say when. But when it's people that, I don't know when the statute of limitations is. I don't know if you deal with this talk, but if I haven't seen you in a decade, I'm surprised you still consider me your pastor. Like, okay. So whatever. But then I thought, you know what? If I start complaining about this, all this is going to do is collapse into just an aggravation. All I'm going to have is a grievance story. Right. Yeah. This last funeral I did, I got the wrong information and went to the wrong funeral home. And it was, that little stretch on 138 right there, right before you get to Scott Ward, how backed up it is. I was already running late, and then I was already, when I go to Conyers, I have to work through a thing anyway. So I was already feeling some kind of way. And then I'm like, caught in this traffic, calling the other funeral home, telling them I'm late. They said, where are you? I said, I'm in Conyers traffic, but it's like gridlock. And I'm thinking, buddy, nobody better tell me they don't come to Metron because of the traffic. Because ain't no traffic in Atlanta as bad as it is here on 138. And freaking, I'm like just going on and on and on. And I'm trying to, drive like a madman to get to the funeral home in Covington where the guy doesn't know what to call me. He's like, what should we call you now? Still Bishop. It's a lot. I'm working through a lot of stuff. And I had texted Avery. I was like, help! With exclamation marks. I'm like, please call that other funeral home and tell them I'm trying to get from Conyers to Covington. And so afterwards, I
called her. I said, look, my apologies for sounding so frantic. It's just that for a few moments there, it was kind of crazy, trying to get through all that traffic and get there, and they're like, there's no service here today. So anyway, and these are people that, like, I didn't even, like, when they call us, they say, well, you should go to your church. I said, I don't even remember who that is, but okay, and what are you going to say? You can't say, no, I'm not doing it, because that's going to be, somebody's going to post it on their Facebook page. And you can't say anything about not getting on the rear, because then it sounds like you're in it for the money, so you just have to do it with a smile on your face. And so Avery said, well, did you get paid? I said, hell no, I didn't. Of course I didn't. I'm a free funeral guy. And she says, well, the universe saw it. I said, you know what, you're right. And if I just complain about this, all I'm going to have is a grievance story. But if I say, no, I planted lots of seed this week. And then I look on a year in the now, and it's all about sending good deeds out to the universe. So I thought, I can end up with just a grievance story, or I can say, look at all the good stuff that I invested, and it's going to be coming back in all kind of ways. So you have to decide. So it's really made me think about, if you think it makes you feel better to vent about something, but it really doesn't, and all it does is it collapses the story into a sad tale. And then people just hear, oh, it sucks to be you, like, sorry for you. Or you can say, look at all the potential, all the stuff that I've put out there, all the, when you even look at, you heard me? You feel that? Even, when we came out of fundamentalism, we heard so much about you got to call the name of the Lord to be saved. You go back and look at, even in the New Testament, so much of it was about works. It was you'll be tried by your works, or the works will be burned up. Every man will receive according to his works. So good deeds matter. And so it really helps you when you didn't get paid for something, or you didn't get appreciated for something, or somebody just, yeah. What? Uh-oh. Felicia's about to prophesy. This is a first. Let the Lord use you. What? Yes? Shut up. This is, Felicia, that's awesome. She said, I was just sitting here looking at that, just gave me chills. It says grateful heart on the front. It says gut feelings are your guardian angels. She says, you were just talking about the train, as you flip it over, grateful heart, it says be a magnet for miracles. I'm keeping that. That's mine now. Confirmation. Oh, she's coming back for more. Uh-oh. What? Look at you.
You're so awesome.
Roz, this was yours, but the frame was yours, but I had to bring you another one.
Yes,
Now, I'm going to give it to Rod. I'm going to give it to Rod. Now, you give it to me. All right. But if you gave it to me, then I get to do with it what I want. All right? So I receive this energy, and I give it to you.
Only the frame is Roz, because I got another card for her. That card is for you, but I got another
All right.
card for Roz, okay? So just give her the frame.
See me after, sir.
Good stuff.
We'll get a picture of that.
Yeah.
I mean, when it looks better. I mean, when it's not askew. Well, then uncrooked it. Do this. So I just felt like that was a word today, even to remind myself, because it's the kind of thing you can't even post about because it sounds like you're being self-involved. But even Jesus, when the thing with the 10 lepers, when one of them comes back, his first thing is, well, weren't there 10 of you? Where are the other 9? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be acknowledged. You just have to understand sometimes you will not be acknowledged from the person that probably should do it, but somebody else will acknowledge it. So instead of me being ticked off about it, I thought, no, I've sowed a lot of seeds this week. So that was the first thing. The second thing is this week, many of y'all know Elwood Newer. He and Beth, they live in Newnan. They don't come here, but he's on our board and he supports. And so Beth wanted to get one of my pieces of art. I have only one piece left now, so little by little, my inventory, it's gone, which is a good thing. So he was working up here in town this past week, and I said, well, I got it out of storage. I'll meet you somewhere. So we met for dinner, and I think I put a picture of it. Anyway, yeah, but there was a picture in there, yeah, that one, and there was another one that I thought it looked, yeah, it looked really good. I love seeing when you show me where you framed it. But, so anyway, he and I were talking, and it was like a really good conversation. I don't talk to Elwood that regularly, but he even said, you had to have been there. But I was talking about something that happened. I said, this doesn't even happen in my current world, because I said, the people who are in my life now, they've been purified by the fire. I mean, they've been with me through a lot. And he said, I know. He said, I joined your cult a long time ago. And I said, this is the best thing I've heard all day. And he said, no, I'm serious. He said, I don't think cult's a bad word. He said, I don't think of it in the religious sense. He said, it's just that, it's where we get the word culture. He said, you do have a cult following, and it's not. He said, it's not a bad thing. It's like people of color using, which I personally don't like, but I get it, using the N word. It's like, I'm going to take it back. White people can't say it, but I'm going to say it because I'm going to take the power away from that word. Or in the gay community, the word queer is used a lot, like queer theology, whatever, which I'm a little uncomfortable with. But I understand why people. It's like, let me take. You can't use this word against me anymore. I'm going to use it. So I thought, well, that's kind of interesting to use the word cult. It's like it's not a bad thing. Like when you talk about a very famous independent movie, and they'll say it has a cult following. It doesn't mean people are worshiping it. It means that there's a culture around it. I mean, clearly, for me, we're coming up on, in a little over a year, basically eight vacations that I said, hey, I'm going to show up somewhere. I don't know where we're going to meet, but I'll put you on a thread, and what are we going to do? We're just going to go sit on the beach and meditate. And y'all have gone for it 7 times. All right, where are we going? Every time even this last one on Drift, I mean, you have to want to get to Driftwood Beach. It's not convenient. I mean, you got to look for a parking lot and walk through the jungle and schlep out there, and there's no bathrooms, and here y'all come. Like, there they are. So I'm like, well, there's a culture around this. It's a cult. I mean, it's crazy to say that word, but that's the word. So something about when he said that, and he'll be listening. If he's not streaming today, I'll be listening to it. We kind of went deep into Revelation. It's one of those. You ever had one of those conversations where you're like the end of Malachi, where it says, "They that fear the Lord spoke often one to another, and a book of remembrance was kept." There's some conversations that you have, and you're like, wow, I wish I could just capture this, freeze this. So I was sharing with him. Remember I did that teaching about, it's probably been about a year ago now, where I was talking about this whole concept about I chose to come here. We talked about it before. Bishop Pearson, he's speaking at Spirit and Life today, which today they're Spirit Trip, which is their 59th anniversary today, by the way. But Bishop Carlton talks a lot about how we agreed to come here, which I'm always fascinated with that. And then when I was going to teach on it, remember when I was going to teach on this, and I just happened to look at Rutherford's page that night. This was surprising coming from him, because Robert's been through a lot of really hard stuff in his life. And he said, he posted something, he said, I not only agreed to it, I created it. And so I called him, I said, I'm going to teach on this tomorrow, but that's really,
you got to handle that very delicately, because people are sitting out there with terrible situations in their life, and you don't want it to come across as, you made this happen. And so I want to be able to say it in a way that, because I'm not even sure I totally understand it, but I like the feeling of victory it gives me to say, I signed up for my life. I created it. It's like it takes you out of victim status. And I can't get too legalistic about it. I can't say you specifically chose your parents or whatever. But I like the idea, because we were talking about it, and I said, well, I think in my own case, what if I chose, like, I don't believe sexual orientation is a choice on this side. But what if I chose it on the other side and said, yeah, I'll be that guy with an anointing, because what it's going to do is it's going to make me challenge a religious system that I never would have challenged otherwise. And if I don't, I'm gonna be born into this family of Pentecostal ministers at the end of the second part of the 20th century. I mean, let me just make it as difficult as I possibly can. Because otherwise I'm never going to set the captive straight, except when I was saying that, we were both sitting there crying. And I said, man, there's something so empowering about saying, I signed up for it all, I created all. It's like when that, Doc, we say that thing that life isn't happening to you, it's responding to you. I love that idea. And I love that I've been able to teach this when not one person has taken me aside and saying, are you saying I gave my mother cancer or something? Like, no, I'm not saying that kind of stuff. I'm saying in some dimension you saw what your life was going to be, and you signed up for it, and you walked into it eyes wide open. And that's why the sooner you get a hold of that, the quicker you opt out of victimization. Because if you think, well, if I walked into it, there's got to be a way to walk out of it. If it was beyond my control, if it was just stuff that happened to me, then there's nothing I can do about it. But if I saw it, and you have to understand, wherever eternity is, it's the rules are different there. You know what I mean? Like in Newtonian physics, what goes up must come down. Remember when he saw the apple, Sir Isaac Newton saw the apple falls, and that's where he gets his whole idea. But in quantum physics, none of that applies. In quantum physics, up isn't down, and down isn't up, and things can be in two places at one time, or whatever. And that's kind of the way eternity is. Like, in this realm, we're used to 1 + 1 = 2. In the realm that's beyond the physical, 1 + 1 could be infinity. It could be 7. It could be, you know what I mean? It's like, so that's why I quit trying to explain ultimate reconciliation to people who are sin conscious. Because people who are sin conscious think, well, Hitler needs to be in hell, and child molesters need to be in hell, and the person who killed an innocent, but they need to be in hell. And in this realm, that does make sense. I wrote about this in my last book, with that guy that ran over the kids intentionally in Covington, and one of them died, and he was laughing when it happened. And I was reading the transcript from the trial, and the mother, when you have a moment for the victims to address the defendant, the mother said, the Bible says there's a hottest place in hell for people like you, and when I see you thrown in hell, I'm going to laugh. When I read that, I thought, the Bible doesn't say that, but I understand from a mother, like there's a part of my brain that hopes that's true. Do you know what I mean? Because me as a parent would say, like even this thing that happened the other day, it's not my journey, but the police officer that accidentally murders somebody because she thinks she's in her house. I'm like, seriously, you can't notice that's not your house? And that's hard enough to handle, but then the brother, goes over and embraces her. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't know that I could do. I mean, if that helps you with your closure, but I kind of would like to see this maybe TMI, but I kind of like to instead of go, oh hell no, like how many more times are white people gonna kill black people and everybody's gonna say anything about it? Like, stop hugging. I mean, I'm sorry, I can say that, but I'm like, seriously, lady? I mean, really, you're murdering somebody. You don't notice you're not in your, that's a very thin grease. Whatever, that's his journey, and Bishop Lunder posted something about it. She said, I'm speaking to it, and I thought, okay, but that's, she actually has a really good voice of wisdom on that. I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I understand the psychological need for hell. I also know that in eternity, what we determine is right and wrong is a different, like Jesus, when Jesus said, if you hate your brother, you're a murderer. Nobody believes that in this realm. If I told you, God, I need to tell you something. There's a guy who lives in my building, I hate him. I think y'all probably like, oh, if I said, y'all, I need to tell you, there's a guy in my building that's on my last little nerve, and I couldn't take him on. I killed him last night, and Ken and I went out and buried him behind my building. I think that would be, I don't think there's one person that would say, well, Jesus said, if you hate him, you're a murderer. You understand what and it certainly wouldn't fly with the cops. You know, in that same Sermon on the Mount, he said, you've heard it said, do not put your wife away except for adultery. But he says, I say if you've even fantasized about adultery, you've committed it. Again, none of us believes that in this realm. In this realm, you know, if a man tells his wife, like, you know, I'm sorry, baby, I looked at this woman walking down the street, she'd be like, it better not happen again. If you said, I've been sleeping with her for the last 2 years, I don't think there's any wife that would say, well, Jesus said, if you've thought about it, you've committed. Yeah. So, you understand what I'm saying? In this realm, we have a different value system. Right. I saw somebody today, I don't even think we're friends on Facebook, but somehow, I don't understand how it works, but she commented on my meditation today. A real sweet comment. And so I just happened to look at her page, and she had a meme that said something like, I'm not one of these, she said, if I die first, I'm not one of these people that says, I think she would have wanted me to go on and be happy with somebody else. She said, not me. I said, get in this casket with me. It was funny. But my point is, when we look at some of the stuff that we've been through in our lives, that we think, no, I was victimized by that. Don't tell me I created that. You can't judge it by how you think in this room. You understand what I'm saying? But if there's a higher consciousness, you can say, no, I saw my life coming in, and you know what Paul said? He said, I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. You know why we have scriptures that talks about wiping away all tears from eyes? Because in another dimension, what's heartbreaking here isn't heartbreaking there. Do you know what I mean? It's like the death of a loved one here is a terrible thing to go through. But the scripture says, beautiful in the sight of the Lord are the death of his saints. So like, it's a different paradigm. So that was the second thing. Both of these things have to do with taking ownership of your life. Taking ownership of how things play out in your life. Back to the original thing I was saying. Remember when the woman with the issue of blood comes to Jesus? No, it was when Jairus came to Jesus and said, my little daughter is sick. Jesus says, I'll go and heal her. And in the middle of that story, the woman with the issue of blood comes to him, and that's when that whole healing takes place. And as soon as that's over with, one of Jairus' men comes and says, don't trouble the master anymore, your little girl is dead. And Jesus stops him and says, be not afraid, only believe. The implication being, however you respond to this thing is going to determine what it's going to become. If you have the natural response that any father would have hearing that his little girl had died, then that's what will happen. If, however, you keep it in this other dimension of saying, I don't see how this is going to be a blessing, but I'm not going to let it collapse into a negative. Yes. And so that's when Jesus, I don't know that Jesus could have raised her from the dead if Jairus hadn't just
shut up. That's why I was thinking today, y'all have gotten really good at it, but not everybody could sit quiet and still for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I mean, we live in a world that even if you're watching TV these days, you're sitting still, but you're probably channel surfing. You know what I mean? The idea of just being present in a moment, we don't live that way now. I was even reading, there's a movement now called the slow down movement. I don't know if you're aware of it, but they have shown that what people think is multitasking, that really people aren't doing as good a job as they think they're doing. There's a really small percentage of the population that successfully multitask. And the whole thing about how living too fast is negatively affecting people's health. I mean, it was in ways that I'd never even heard of before. I'm not preaching to you, I'm not praying for you, we're just being quiet. I think that's tapping into something that's higher. The answers are in the silence. Because sometimes when there's so much preaching going on and praying and prophesying and singing and worshiping, nobody can hear. If Jesus himself stood in most churches, most people would be so busy making noise about him, they wouldn't notice that he's there. It always amazed me, that story of the road to Emmaus. The resurrected Jesus is walking with these guys for close to 7 miles, which is longer than the Peachtree Road Race. And they're discussing the scriptures with him. He says, what are y'all talking about? They're like, we're so upset they crucified Jesus today. And he's like, you walk with somebody for 7 miles and haven't noticed who they are, you really don't know who they are. And the fact that they were discussing the scriptures in the presence of Jesus, not recognizing Jesus. Now that says a lot. People say, our church believes the Bible. Oh, okay. But do you recognize the presence of God?
Come on, Bishop.
Because I'm not sure you would know the presence of God if it came up and looked you right in the face. Anyway, you hear what I'm saying. The third thing is we have announcements. So our outreach this month is, I wanted to do this last month when Hurricane Dorian came through, but we'd already promised that money to Chapel of Love, which, by the way, is coming together. It's going to be really beautiful what they're doing with it. But not all of the Bahamas were wiped out, because I know Lopez is there right now, but not the tourist area, but the place where people live. It was just, the Bahamas just wiped out. So we're going to give to the Bahamas for relief Hurricane Dorian this month. So we'll do that. And, sometimes when I've used Red Cross, people will say, don't use them. I've been using Red Cross for years. They may not be perfect, but they're very well vetted organization, and we've given, I'm in church now, we gave to 9/11, to Sri Lanka for the tsunami, and I like working with these organizations that have been around for a while, so that's what we're doing. Remember that 2 weeks from today, we will not be here in this theater, so don't come here, go to Lake Chattooga in Hiawassee. Francis has been posting some really cool pictures, and I love that. Again, don't assume you're on the thread. If you haven't told me to put your name on the thread, you ain't on it. If you can see your name on it, you're on it. If you're writing me on the thread saying, how do I get on this thread? Apparently you don't understand how the thread works. The fact that you can write on the thread means you're already on it. Or you wouldn't be seeing it. So I think most of you got your rooms like the first 10 minutes. I don't know, we're all just sitting with computers like, where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? Where's it gonna be? We're going to the beach, it's Hiawassee, got it. I never saw people get rooms as quick as y'all got these last ones. y'all did not play. Which mountains in the fall is probably a good idea to get those rooms locked in. And there's things going on in Hiawassee during then, but there was stuff going on in Cherokee when we were there last year, and it was fun. Remember that November 24th, which is the Sunday before Thanksgiving, will be in Eatonton at the Chapel of Love. If you have people that live out there, invite them to come and be with us. And then make sure you have it on your calendar. December 17th, we'll be going back to the castle in Peachtree, and Dickens singers who will be there in full vintage costumes. It's going to be really beautiful. It's going to be the most beautiful Christmas event that we've ever had. So be sure you get that on your calendar. I think many of you observed the Year of Living Your Best Life this week, so we had all kind of good stuff happening. And thanks for knowing how to use the hashtag. And if I see that Amber, is that your grandson?
Yes.
We usually don't get to see him because her kids they're very private about posting, but that's such a great action picture of him. Which one is that?
He's Sam. He's a
That's
senior.
Sam.
Mm-hmm. This is his senior year.
Didn't I dedicate Sam as a baby?
I believe.
One of them.
You
I
possibly.
can't believe I'll be in some.
You may have.
I'll be in some places and this huge man walks up to me and, "Hey Bishop, how you doing?" I'm like, "How do I know you dedicated me as a baby?" I'm like, "Oh wow, that must have been a while. That must have been a while ago." So anyway, that's cool, and that's just a great shot. You finally snuck in a way to post pictures. I told him the other day, I said, "I don't think your grandkids are real because I never see pictures of them. You keep saying y'all go off to head speak with your grandkids. I don't know. With me, I'm like, it's not her. She's honoring her kids' wishes. But me, I post everything." So anyway, that's all of our stuff. Thank you for being here today. It was good. It's good to be here. Let's all stand. Did you get started? That's so awesome. Please remain standing. We'll play this for the YouTubians, the people.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy.
Easy peasy.
You can give any time using any smartphone. Text the amount you'd like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation.
Happy business.
You may also visit bishopthenow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you're making a check, make it to JESM, and Danny will be back there to receive it. If you have cash, just pay it forward and bless somebody. I'm very excited about this month, and especially about our meditation weekend. And so please be a part of it. I speak a beautiful day to you, rest to your body, everything that came up out of your subconscious in meditation, that you're able to harness it into your conscious mind, manifest it here in this natural plane. I surround you with light, and peace, and grace, and said you a good night's sleep and a prosperous week, and you wake up tomorrow saying, "This is the day the Lord has enabled me to make. I will rejoice and be glad in it." Love you so much. Peace.
There you go,